Hey, happy evening, guys, and thank you all for joining us on the quest. If you did, we're just wrapping that up now, as some of you guys are finally getting the last command. But that was super fun. So special shout out to Tessa and Miss Mergu for putting that together. It was super fun. I'm sure you agree with me. This one was a lot more complicated than the first, and the next one's coming soon. But we're just going to give it a few more minutes to wait for everyone to grab some drinks, go to the toilet, grab some food, finish questing, and then we'll start. Right, I feel like everyone's here and they'll soon catch up as they get back to their phones. But thank you all for joining us tonight. We're here with the Shima Founders for a bit of an update. In case you didn't recognize the voice, I'm Jake. I'm here in the studio with Tessa. We've just finished questing and we're just about to grab some food. So I'm going to hand the mic over to Simon and catch you guys in a bit. Over to you, Si.
Thanks, Jake. Good day, everyone. The eagle-eyed amongst you might have noticed we have the elusive Ed who's joining us today. Ed, do you want to say hello quickly?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Elusive, right? I've been hiding underneath a rock in the metaverse actually for the last while, but it's a great pleasure to finally join this. It's kind of new to me, so I'm really looking forward to it. Nice to meet everyone.
Thanks, Ed. So just to, I suppose, a bit of context, Ed is head of virtual production and head of real time, oversees our art and development team at Dimension, and has been working extremely hard with the team behind the scenes to develop what you currently see for Metashima in terms of the initial lightning drop, and then what we've been working on alongside that. Obviously, some of that you guys are aware of in terms of our roadmap. So Ed's kind of day to day is very much overseeing the product and the results of the product that we're sharing with you guys and what you're starting to see. Did you want to dive straight in on that, Ed? Do you want to talk a bit about some of the work we've been doing behind the scenes and the process with the team?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, please excuse me if I'm gonna say stuff that you lot already know. I mean, Simon and Yush and Jake might have already mentioned a bunch of this, but I'm really lucky to kind of have as part of my responsibility the oversight of the art team, and we have some incredibly talented real-time artists at Dimension, and the real-time artist bit is quite. Sorry. Okay. The real-time aspect is quite interesting because we've, as you all know, we use Unreal Engine as our main tool, and we've kind of leaned heavily into that. So yeah, our entire team of artists are Unreal Engine experts, and my day today is just kind of helping them, produce the best work that they can. The techniques, the technologies around it, but also. I kind of get heavily involved along with Simon on the creative direction of it. I think we're going to talk a little bit about my, I would say unhealthy obsession with robots in a bit, which kind of made it really, really exciting for me to kind of get involved with a project like this one. I've got particular interest in just robots in general. So this was a bit of a passion project for me personally. So everything just kind of lined up, and yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment, and looking forward to giving you a bit more details on that in a minute.
Cool, thanks, Ed. Yush, do you want to say hello?
Hello, everyone. Great to speak with you guys again. I know it's been a while since we've reared our ugly heads, but it's been summer and it's been busy, and it's good to be back in front of you and take some of your questions today. Hopefully you can learn a bit more about us.
Nice one. Thank you, everyone, for the questions that have been submitted. There's a load of them that we've been working our way through. Jake, how do you want to play this? Are you going to go through the questions and we'll answer them one at a time? What's the best way to do that?
We can start with the Q&A if you want.
No,
we got Tess in the background as well. You might have heard.
I'm in the background.
Say hello, Tess.
Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing? The quest was full on, but I'm glad you guys got there in the end. Thanks to Miss Merg as well, of course. But maybe we should just start you've done your intros, so I guess we can dive into the project and talk about our core mission statement and any long-term goals that we have for Metashima. Do you want to start that, Si?
Okay, great. Yeah. I mean, most people, I'm assuming, will have read the Shima paper and will have followed, I suppose, the updates on the project as we've, developed and released phases over the past, 6 months or so. The core mission for us remains very much the same as what's always been stated. We believe in a metaverse, which it's an interesting one, actually. There's a lot of debate at the moment about will the metaverse be virtual reality, or will it be augmented reality, or will it be something else? Our background as a studio spans 10 years of thinking in terms of what the metaverse might be, even though the word metaverse wasn't really used 10 years ago when we first started developing AR. Actually, the way in which we've approached the kind of vision and the roadmap for Metashima has always been with a view to the fact that the metaverse, from our perspective, is an ever present and persistent digital canvas, whether it coincides and coexists in the physical world, so virtual content that bleeds into and exists around us in the physical world, or whether we step into the virtual world through new form factors and virtual reality headsets and you immerse yourselves in the content. Actually, we believe that the digital content will coexist between those two different kind of mediums and others, which, whether it's a desktop PC or whether it's your mobile phone, other access points for the metaverse. And Metashima, 10 years ago, I suppose the seed for the idea really began when we started talking to people about what we thought AR might be in the future and how we might interact with digital content in the physical world. And we love the idea that, in the not too distant future, you would have virtual companions, not just avatars or other characters that were digital. There would be other things, robots and other things to be conceived. And it used to be part of our storytelling, I suppose, about how we might interact with virtual content and how we might get utility and derive new forms of entertainment. Whether it's physical scavenger hunts using AR in city spaces, whatever it might be, and so the seed for Metashima really started some time ago, and since then, obviously, technologies have moved on, and the time felt right for us to actually take a look at it more seriously, with a view to, we believe in the idea that in the not too distant future, we'll have virtual companions that have intelligence and that will help us in our day-to-day lives, help us to have fun, help us to interact, help us to communicate, and all of that within the metaverse. And of course, the metaverse being that kind of digital space which spans both completely immersive virtual worlds, or the fact that you can be somewhere in the physical world and you can access digital content, whether it's for gameplay or whether it's for some form of information or utility. And so ultimately Metashima is very much your AI virtual companion. We want to have fun with it, so we've designed the robots, and Ed will talk more about this in terms of bringing those robots to life with character. We don't want to create kind of killer droids, if you see what I mean. So we've considered every part of the design of the Metashima as though it was a physical product, and thought about the way in which those, even though it's completely virtual, the way in which those robots will communicate or provide different forms of value to the user, which is why the screen exists, which is why we're looking at multimedia as a way in which the Metashima themselves can display and present and communicate different forms of content. So that's still very much the mission, and that's the path we're on. We're super excited about the progress we're making, but along the way, I think we've always said that this is a journey. This project, some of the technologies exist today to bring some of the vision to life. Others are still quite nascent, and we're exploring what that might look like. We also want to make it fun. So the whole idea behind Metashima is that ultimately, whilst we might be developing a companion, we also want to create an entertainment experience which helps us, get towards that future where you have an intelligent sidekick that can accompany your avatar, or indeed your physical self in the physical world. So that's kind of, I suppose, a quick summary, or not so quick summary of our the ambition behind the project. Is there anything I haven't covered there?
No, you covered it, bro.
Sweet.
I wouldn't rule out killer robots right away. Just saying, I'm still on the fence there. Have I given away too much already, Si? It's too soon. Too soon, is it?
I knew it was dangerous bringing you onto the call.
All right. I'll keep quiet.
Like we say, we want to have fun with the robots. So we started to release some of the, or over the course of this month, we'll be revealing more about the DNA types and what that means for the holders, and what that means for utility. And I won't reveal too much, but you'll start to see more of that over the next 4 to 6 weeks, if you like. But certainly, that kind of steers into us having some fun with the robots as well. And we've been following, obviously, the Shima Spiracies quite closely, and lots of people have touched on some of the ideas we've been exploring and ways in which we can, all have fun with Metashima together.
Cool. So I think the spaces would be really, really cool to kind of get to know a bit more about each of you, and if you guys have any epic stories about projects you've worked on, how did you get here? And obviously the community have done their research with Dimension. They've seen Coldplay and all the virtual productions we've got coming up. So if any of you want to take the floor.
I reckon we hand this one to Ed.
Yeah.
Because Ed's working on a bunch of really cool stuff at the moment, and he loves to talk about it.
Well, how long do I have to talk about it? Because, I don't want to take up the rest of the evening. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff that we're doing, we can't really talk about. But recently, one of the really, really big virtual production jobs that we worked on, it basically, it's Pinocchio. Disney's live action remake of Pinocchio is about to drop on Disney Plus. And that's a Robert Zemeckis and Tom Hanks movie. So Robert Zemeckis, everyone will know, is like that legendary director who directed Forrest Gump and Contact and Back to the Future. I mean, some of those are my all-time favorite movies. And of course, Tom Hanks is the greatest living actor in the whole world. And I'll fight anyone who disagrees with me on that one. But from my point of view as a movie fan, that was an incredible opportunity to work with both of those. And we worked on that show for quite a while in the Cardington Aerodrome. And the Cardington Aerodrome, they're giant hangars. They're 2 enormous hangars where they built the film set for this movie. And they're so large, actually. If people don't know what these are, you should really Google them, because they're just incredible things. They're up in just north of London, actually, and they're 2 giant half-cylinder structures that are so large. They were used to build the British version of the Hindenburg airship back in the day, the R-101, I think that was called. But they're so large that under certain weather conditions, clouds form inside these buildings. They're just enormous buildings. But the scale of this production was huge, and we built, I think, some of the world's largest LED walls, very similar to the stuff that all of this new technology that the Mandalorian's using, and many, many other movies and TV shows nowadays. But we built huge walls of LEDs for lighting Tom Hanks and all of the actors for this show. So that was super cool. That was very intimidating to be on set around people like that, I must admit. They kept us on our toes with new technology as well. It always kind of breaks. I mean, you all know, that computers just never work right, and we're always turning them off and turning them back on again. But that's never an excuse that I want to offer up to Robert Zemeckis, of course. But that's a story for another day. But that's about to drop on Disney Plus, so keep an eye out for that one. Also, Bullet Train. I'm not sure if we've kind of said much about that. That's a movie that's out now, I think, in theaters. It's a kind of a comedy drama action in the vein of a John Wick kind of movie, and it's starring Brad Pitt on a bullet train in Japan. And we did a lot of real-time computer graphics, real-time virtual production stuff, all in Unreal Engine. Again, by the way, everything we do all of the art team works inside Unreal Engine, which is the same software and environment that we use to create our Metashima as well, of course. So that was really cool, and I haven't seen that movie yet, so I'm really looking forward to watching that.
Just on that, there's a really great BTS which we should share actually, where it shows the behind the scenes of the set when they're filming the live action before the backgrounds are added in. So we created the background scene. So if you see some of the scenes where the actors are on the train and out of the windows, you can see like the cityscapes as the train, the bullet train powers through. Those environments were created in Unreal, and you can see the before and after. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of bananas what we're doing now. I mean, basically, we're making movies using video games engines, which I was just at home last week. I was back in Ireland last week for a wedding, my cousin's wedding, and everyone was asking me what I do for a living, and basically, I just play video games all day. Practically speaking, I use a video games engine to make Hollywood movies, and that's not a bad job, And it's the way that I kind of like to describe to my family and friends what I actually do for a living, because that's really what it boils down to. So I'm very lucky.
They still don't get it, Ed. I tried to explain NFTs and Metashima, and someone thought I was talking about Hiroshima. Wondered why it was occupying my entire day. I was like,
wow. It's because you always talk about Hiroshima, though, Yush. It's probably what it is. That's why they were expecting it.
Yes, just thinking about other projects we're working on at the moment. We've shared some of the stuff on Coldplay. Is it worth talking about that? And then there's some other stuff on Volumetric, which might be worth covering as well.
Yeah, I mean, Coldplay, obviously everyone's familiar with it who's joined previous spaces and had a dig through our website. I think the interesting thing there is that it comes from solving a problem of how do you get people to be performing in the same virtual space that can't be connected in real life. So the team, the band that they sang with, BTS, were obviously filmed in Seoul using volumetric capture, and then Coldplay filmed in London, and then the two brought together. And the reason it's different, it's a different approach to shooting music videos, is because you need that ability to show them as a 3D person and have free-flowing camera movements around these people once they're filmed. And that was like, it was so different to what Coldplay had done before. They've always, talking to their creative team, they've always wanted to push the boundaries of what they can do creatively in their music videos, but this was a step up. And we're working with a director called Dave Myers and a production company with Nathan Shearer. And both of them were like, right, so how does this work? How can we actually integrate these into a virtual world? And it was basically driven by our insistence that this would be far better than shooting it on a 2D green screen traditional shoot. And part of the value of what we brought to the table creatively is that the assets that we created, whether it was Coldplay or BTS, were then reused in multiple channels. So BTS were then used on the live performance of The Voice final in the US, and they were integrated into the live performance of Coldplay on the stage, even though they weren't there. And so lots of cool shit like that we've been doing over the years. A lot of the projects we get are, can we do this for the first time? This hasn't been done before. Can we figure it out? And that's what's been really exciting about the Coldplay stuff, is because I understand that they've taken the assets and they're using them on the live performances in their current global tour. So again, that's really cool for us and something that we're pretty proud of as a team.
And we're seeing we're starting to see the adoption of like volumetric in filmmaking as well. So one of the benefits of, like, if you've seen the Coldplay BTS, whether it's the voice piece or whether it's the original music video for My Universe, one of the benefits for the director is that you can basically, you're free. It's a free viewpoint medium, so you can place the camera wherever you want because it's a three-dimensional asset. The camera can move around, or you can choose your camera path, and you're not limited in that sense. And we've started to see the adoption of volumetric in filmmaking, and we think that's something that's going to continue to grow as the technology starts to evolve. We're currently working on a big feature film where the volumetric technology we have is used to generate hundreds of thousands of people in crowds. So it's from, I can't say the name of the film, but it's for a well-known music artist, and it's part of the kind of stadium events. The crowds that were generated use volumetric. And also in games, on the morning you wake is a recent VR experience, or games, I say games or interactive storytelling, because on the morning you wake isn't specifically a game, but it's recently won, or earlier this year it won the jury prize at South by Southwest, and again that used volumetric video to create the characters in the VR experience, and you follow the storyline, and it's more immersive in that sense. So it's quite exciting in terms of the way in which the adoption of volumetrics working, and how that's developing.
Amazing, thanks guys. I think there were a few questions about where Metashima originally came from. So I think we have touched on it before in Spaces, but for anyone that's new, so if you want to go into where the idea came from, and then Ed, I'm giving you permission to go full robot nerd.
You're giving me permission.
Permission. I want to hear about all the inspirations, art inspirations, and yeah, just your love of robots. I think that'd be really, really cool.
I'll do a really short intro to it, Ed, if you like. We're, as a business, I mean, everything we do is three-dimensional content ultimately. Whether it's using real-time game engines such as Unreal, or whether it's using volumetric capture technologies, and whether we're creating a scene for a film, or we're creating a VR experience or an AR experience or game, it's all 3D content. And as a business, we've always invested in looking at what's next. What do we think's coming through that's going to be beneficial to us as a business, but also important to the future of how content might be created and consumed. And with Metashima, we were looking for the right Web3 project to start building more of a capability in that area. And it felt like the time was right in terms of the technologies, but also the fact that we wanted to do more in the Web3 space and start to learn and understand, a space which we think is going to be, essential to the onset of and development of the metaverse. So that's kind of how Metashima, why we decided on Metashima, if you like, for that project. And I think I touched on at the beginning of this call where the kind of seed or the idea originated from for Metashima is really to help people understand the creative possibilities and the future world we imagined, where you would all have your own virtual robots that would do cool shit with you. Over to you, Ed.
My love of robots. I've already talked about it. I think I probably should qualify what my love of robots actually means. Really, that could be taken a couple of ways, couldn't it? I've just been a sci-fi kind of fan since I was a kid, and I used to, from the very early, the earliest day. Like I had a brother. My brother was the outdoorsy one. He would run outside hitting things with sticks and setting things on fire and making friends, and I would be the other one who would be inside reading and drawing and making model kits of Spitfires and things like that. So that kind of is how I began as a 3D artist, and part of that is just a love of mechanical design, I suppose. And quite early on, actually, when there was a British company called Manga Entertainment. This is going back quite a while. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I might be giving my age away a little bit here. Manga Entertainment were the first company to start to bring anime certainly to the UK, and probably I would maybe also say to a wider Western audience with movies like Akira and a bunch of other movies back in the day. And it really lit a fire in my imagination. But what it also did was it started to show me the Japanese design aesthetic, the Japanese mechanical design aesthetic in particular. And I always found interesting that there's a difference in the way media and movies and things like that, comics and stories depict robots in the West and in Japan. In the West, a robot tends to be a self-governing, I don't know, like an AI that sits inside the robot, like C3PO or something that is its own kind of character and personality, and that's kind of like the almost exclusively the Western idea of a robot. And in Japan, it's very, very different. In Japan, it's much more practical. Like most robots in Japanese media and movies and in manga and anime, they're more like tools. There are exceptions, of course, to this rule, but generally speaking, it's the opposite. It's the robots from Patlabor and the robots from Macross and Gundam, and all of these things are robots that are human controlled. They're not AI driven. But what was really, really interesting to me was the mechanical design of them. That they looked like they could be real things. Way more so than the robots that were being designed in most Western comics and media at the time. Like I said, there were exceptions. ED-209 from RoboCop, that was incredible. But even that looked kind of Japanese in its design aesthetic. But you've all made a mistake now, by the way, about asking me about robots. This is like a massive mistake. Someone's gonna have to cut me off in a minute. Basically, some of the inspirations for me with Metashima came from my model building love of Gundam kits. So I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with that, but Gundam is a Japanese anime series, massively popular. I'm sure everyone is familiar with it, but there's a huge industry and community around Gunpla, which is the model building kits around the Gundam models themselves. And I fell in love with that. And that's kind of informed a lot of the design decisions around the way we took the art direction for Metashima. There's a famous mecha designer, mecha being the generic kind of term for Japanese mechanical design, robots or not. And there's a famous mecha designer called Hajime what is it? Katoki. That's his name. Sorry, I'm under pressure. But he has this particular design aesthetic where whatever he would design would look real. It would have warning labels on it, and beware of jet exhaust kind of labels. And I love that, and that's something that we wanted to introduce into the Metashima as well. So we wanted to give them a really strong identity, but we also wanted to make them feel like they were physically plausible in some universe, So you'll notice on a lot of the Metashima, there's the classic kind of no step, beware of jet thrust, danger, all of those little decals that you might expect to see on things like an F-18 or an F-14 jet fighter from Top Gun or a Gundam model kit from Japanese anime. So, a lot of the design decisions for the Metashima came from that for me. So yeah, I don't know if that kind of is what we were looking to speak about, Tessa, but I could keep going, but just let me know.
Yeah, definitely. That is so cool. I think you've definitely got some fans, Ed. So if anyone hasn't followed you yet, I don't know if you're going to be using this profile much, but I'm going to make you and even maybe do your own spaces because the community are loving it.
Just one thing to add,
go.
Tess. Next time we do a Spaces and Ed's on, we play this game in the office. When Ed says Gundam, we all have to have a shot because we have to hear about it pretty much about 15,000 times a day if you're anywhere near Ed. So next time, let's do that and see who's standing at the end of the Spaces.
You didn't even pronounce the word Gundam right there, Yush.
I fucking did, mate. I did.
Do you know what I mean?
Gundam.
Extra shot.
Gundam.
I said Gundam.
As you've probably guessed, Ed basically lives in the mag. He's constantly building robots.
Yeah, like I said earlier on, it's not a bad job, is it? It's not. Simon actually pays me to do this, which is bananas when you actually think about it. So maybe I shouldn't have said that, in front of Simon, who is effectively my boss. But yeah, you pay me to do this. Very happy camper.
I think on that note, we should move on to the state of the nation, shouldn't we, Silas? bring it back to Metashima and give everyone those product updates they're so desperately craving. I know when Mag has been banned in the chat, but I feel like we can ask it now and see how we get on.
Yeah, okay. Where should we start? Should we start with the mag? You've mentioned that. So, I mean, the updates are mainly around timeframes, I suppose. With the mag itself, we've obviously been making a lot of progress internally on the development for that. And we're going to start sharing sneak peeks of the progress from later this month. So you'll start to get a sense of how the mag is shaping up, if you like. And then in terms of DNA, which mentioned before, but we've released 8 DNA types as part of the initial Lightning launch, and there's definitely more to come over the coming weeks. I think it's really exciting. All I can say on that right now is 888. So for the Shima Spiracy lot, that might get you going. The accessory pack, the first accessory pack for Metashima. So this is one of the ways in which you'll be able to customize the Metashima. There's going to be sneak peeks coming later this month as well. So you'll start to see some fun content which starts to tease what the accessories or the first drop for accessories looks like. We're super excited about sharing the progress that the guys and Ed and the team have been working on for that. And then in terms of Shadow, all I can say on that at the moment is, because we're just finalizing a few things around the timings, but it's in development. It's distinct from Lightning. I think everyone kind of has been talking about that. So, we can share that. And the sneak peeks for that will be sometime in Q3 this year. So you'll get to see more of what Shadow is about. But we have been having a lot of fun internally.
It's so cool. It's so cool
with the team. It's very, very cool, and we can't wait to share more. But like everything, we kind of apply the same process and principles, I suppose, into the work we do for our clients, to our own projects as well. So we tend to share things when it's right, and we're getting there, which is great, and we'll be sharing more on all 4 of those things very soon. So thanks for bearing with us. I know people have been asking about the mag, etc., but you will start to see progress. Is there anything you wanted to add on that, Jake?
Potentially, we could have a quick look at the roadmap if you wanted to talk about the phases, or should we move straight on to the Q&A?
We can move on to the Q&A. I mean, the phases remain the same. So there's the first 4 phases, or the first 3 before you get to the fourth. The collection of the Metashima, the configuration, and the training, and then the training side of it, there's going to be, obviously there'll be interaction and there'll be lots of fun to be had. We won't talk too much at this stage about what's coming in phase 4, but I've seen some of the ideas and theories that have been floating around, and some of them aren't far off the mark in terms of what we've got planned, which is cool.
Awesome. Thanks, Si. Right, let's dive into the questions. I'm going to try my best not to butcher your Discord names, so let me know if I get any of them wrong, but I'm going to go straight in for anyone who wants to take this. It's from X Gidley Bob. And what's the highlight of everyone's careers and your most memorable moment?
Yes, do you want to go?
Sure. So very quickly, I mean, Coldplay was a highlight. Shooting Madonna was a highlight. A low light was me offering Madonna a seat after she finished dancing and she ignored me. And one of her aides brought a seat over because I was too lowly to be spoken to. That was a career low and high. I launched, as part of the team that launched Xbox One, part of the PR team, and launched BlackBerry 10, global launch of that. And I think one of the coolest things that I did was with Simon, actually, back in 2010, was launch an AR startup, which was probably the first of its kind, launching augmented reality on iOS. And that was pretty cool. Had a global audience, and just kind of flying by the seat of our pants, working in someone's lounge with laptops on our laps, and just kind of talking to people all around the world about this new company that we're launching. So that was pretty cool, actually. That was an amazing experience. So, you want to have a shot?
Actually, I'll let Ed go.
Oh,
Put you on the spot.
yeah. Thanks, man. Whew. It's been so. I've been lucky. I guess that's maybe my highlight. I mean, I know this is going to sound a bit boring, but I think my highlight's not so much a thing, but more the privilege of being able to do what I do for so long. The first half of my career was making video games, and the second half was VFX, and now I'm basically doing both at the same time, and I just consider myself incredibly lucky. There is there is a highlight. I don't know if I should say this, but it is quite funny. Shag it, I'll just say it. It was on the set of Pinocchio. It's only recently in my mind, but I'll share it with you, lot. It's kind of funny. The virtual production stuff that we were doing with this show was probably about a year ago, I'd say, and it wasn't very robust. We're using Unreal Engine, and we're asking it to do stuff that it's not really designed to do. It is now, but back then it wasn't. So it was really flaky and it was breaking all the time. And we're on a set with 200 other people, including, like I said earlier, Robert Zemeckis and Tom Hanks, and everyone else has been making movies the same way for 100 years. The lighting people and the camera people and the sound people, and everything's just working like clockwork. Like it's a beautifully oiled machine, except us, because it's so new and it just keeps breaking all the time. Anyway, it wasn't working at the time, and everyone's kind of looking at their watches and looking over at us, and the first assistant director's coming over going, when's it going to work, and at this point we didn't even know if it was going to work, and it was anxiety and inducing, as you can imagine. And it got to a point where Robert Zemeckis shouted at the top of his lungs, "This is horseshit!" And you just want to die. You literally just want to die at that point, and I'm like, okay, this is something that we never want to do again. But interestingly enough, it is now one of the highlights of our job. That I know it sounds ridiculous, but having one of the greatest living movie directors shout at you that this is horseshit, I think that's a really good story. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. Not necessarily what you were asking for, but I think it's a good story at least.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ed.
That trumps any highlight I've got, Ed. I think that wins. I mean, for me, a bit like what you said, Ed, really, it's like the journey over the last, especially the last 5 years, it's just been remarkable, and it's been a real privilege to be in a position to build a team, and who are really passionate and talented about what they do. It's taken us from, when we first started Dimension, it was actually called Hammerhead VR, and we rebranded, but our very first VR experience was, believe it or not, was for a brand called Borsan Cheese. And they came to us, they were doing an experiential event at a couple of locations. I think one of them was Waterloo. And so when you come through into the terminal, you've got one of these stands, and they were running VR. They wanted to run a VR experience, which kind of gave you an idea of how Borsan cheese stimulated the senses. And they came to us with this crazy brief and said, well, we've got an idea where we want to put you in a fridge, and can you guys create a roller coaster which travels through the fridge and you experience the different flavors and scents that go into the creation of the cheese. And really random, but what I love is we've gone from our very first project, which was was for a cheese brand, and in a very short space of time, to Ed's point, we're now in a fortunate position where we're working with a lot of the biggest entertainment studios, whether not just for film, in the world. And we get to meet a lot of cool people, and we get to work on some really fun stuff. But behind it all is a team which are great at what they do, have a great laugh. There's definitely been some challenges, like through the pandemic. We had 2 studios where everyone was together day to day. Mostly, we didn't have teams that were based remotely. We had to like most businesses, we had to look at gearing up for remote working, and that's actually had benefits to us since then. But yeah, it's just the journey we've been on over the past 5 years in particular is just been incredible growth, and we're very fortunate to work on some very cool stuff. And what we love at the moment is the fact that actually these worlds are starting to merge together. So the fact that 3D real-time game engines are now powering movie creation, but they're also the building blocks for the metaverse. You're getting this overlap where we expect as a studio to be doing more work where we might be working on an IP which is it's film, but it's also we get to do the game experience or a companion experience in virtual reality, which leverage similar assets all created from a similar engine. So yeah, we're lucky in terms of the journey we've had so far, but we're by no means finished. We've got some some big ambitions over the next couple of years as part of our business roadmap, not just for Metashima, but for the business growth. And because of the current, I suppose, interest and excitement around both virtual production and filmmaking, but also the potential of the metaverse and what that offers. Looking forward to the next couple of years for sure.
Awesome. Thanks to those guys. I'm surprised none of you picked the Metashima launch, so I'm going to take that as my highlight and score some bonus points while they're available. But moving on, I've got a question for Ed, and it's from Ed the Drunk. How much do you collaborate with your fellow artists? And do you each do your own bit? Or each do your own bits? So maybe talk about the breakdown of the art team.
Ed the Drunk, that's also how I'm known, coincidentally. But getting back to the very serious question, good question. Unreal has kind of enabled a generalization in artists. And what I mean by that is it enables a digital artist to become what is truly a generalist. So Unreal it's kind of like a holistic system. Because it's a game engine which is designed to make worlds. It's got things like wind, physics, sound, animation, all sorts of things in it. And it enables one artist to do many, many more things than something like 3ds Max or Maya or Blender, which is, I guess, harder to kind of become generalist in. How this kind of feeds into answering your question, Ed, is we try to give our artists as much creative engagement and ownership of the project, of any project, not just Metashima. Because really, I mean, I've been an artist all my life, and I know the juicy thing about being an artist is being able to kind of feel like you're connected to the art that you're making, and that's not always the case, and in some industries you're just a cog in a wheel, and that's sometimes how it unfortunately has to happen. Certainly with very, very large movies in a traditional VFX pipeline, all you ever. I remember meeting a guy at a party years ago who told me he worked for Weta, and that blew my mind. And I was like, tell me more. And he was like, well, I made the chains that held King Kong down, and I spent 6 months making those chains, and that's all he ever did. But we which sounds like torture. Really, it sounds like a terrible job ultimately. But anyway, what we want to do is we want to be able to give our artists the ability to contribute to all aspects of it. So, and then also kind of discover what aspects of it they enjoy doing. So the artists on the Metashima project are generalists. Some of them like animating. Some of them just love building. So one of our main modeling artists, a guy called Paul, he loves hard surface modeling. That's his passion. Absolutely loves it. And he's responsible for almost all of the hard surface model topology that goes toward making the Metashima. And he's a machine. He's an artisan. He picks every single polygon, every single vertex. He takes pride in placing, and it's a beautiful thing to see. So he specializes in that, and that's what he likes to do. And so we can mix it up when we want to, but we can get specialized and drill down on specifics when we want to as well. It depends on the artist. I hope that answers your question, Ed.
Perfectly. Thank you. Right, this is a question for all of you, and I think this should be a quick fire one. It's from Menet. Which are your favorite personal Shima components and materials?
Glass.
What?
So Menik wants to know what your favorite Metashima components and materials are.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, for me, it's got to be the screen, the face. So you've probably been told quite a bit about what we're planning on doing with the screen and the face, I suppose. So I keep calling it a screen because that's effectively what it is, you know, and we are using it as the face of the Shima, you know, the eyes being famously that famous saying, the eyes are the window to the soul. And I think the screen is the window to the Shima's soul. I think that's a really good way to think about it. It's we're only really scratching the surface with what we can do with that component, but the material and the shader on that is quite a complex thing, and you haven't really see it flex its muscles yet. It's got beautiful complexity to be almost holographic, and to have this kind of opalescent depth to it, which is quite beautiful, you know. And I'm hoping that you're going to see a lot more of what we can do with that particular aspect of the Metashima as we move forward. So that's my answer to that question, Jake.
Sai, over to you.
My answer, I don't think it answers the question directly, but I mean, it steers into what Ed's saying. So one of the things we've worked really hard on is, you know, bringing character out in the design of the Metashima, and, you know, to Ed's point about how we'll use the screen and the face, that will help to demonstrate some of what we've got planned. And we've been thinking of them as physical products in the design of the Shima, but, you know, beyond that, we're also, you know, I see the Metashima a bit like accessories, you know, it taps into street culture. I mean, take for example the iPhone, where you can make it yours, you can customize it with, you know, different skins effectively. You know, we've done the same with Metashima. What I really like about some of the customization possibilities and the way in which we're approaching the, you know, the fact that you can customize the Shima is the fact that actually we're kind of changing the game in terms of how robots are presented. You know, they can have graffiti skins, we can have artist strips, we can reconfigure components on them, you can make them your own. And I really love that personalization part of what we're trying to do with Shima, because traditionally when we see robots, they kind of look quite similar in their finish, if you like. They tend to be metallic, or, you know, there's a flat color. You know, they don't necessarily take on properties from sneaker culture or street culture, and I think mixing that up a bit gives us a greater degree of creative freedom, and not just us, you know, the creative community that the Shima will be opened up to, so that people can do cool things with them. So that doesn't answer the question about what my favorite texture is or material property. I love carbon. I love the drips, the artist drips that we've worked hard on. But yeah, I like the fact that it's a canvas that can evolve over time.
Thank you. So should we go back to Dimension, kind of our projects and stuff? We've got a question from Nex. He's spoken about how we create photorealistic environments for virtual production. So could we talk through the process and whether we're going to apply this sort of creation of content to Metashima?
We can, yeah. I mean, I won't spend too much time talking through the process because that could take hours, really. But we are absolutely going to apply that to Metashima. It's core to the roadmap. It's, as you all know, Metashima is much bigger than the Metashima themselves. The environment that they will end up inhabiting, are some of the environments that they will end up inhabiting will be photorealistic, and some of them will not. You know, and I don't want to give too much away there, but photorealism is a stylistic choice, of course, and it doesn't always have to be photoreal for it to be engaging and I mean, you all know that, you know, you just have to look at the many varied artistic directions that people have taken in video games and various metaverse environments that have been kind of popping up over the last while, you know. So we have an expertise in creating photorealistic environments, of course, and using Unreal Engine, because that's what we do for virtual production. Virtual production requires us to create effectively virtual sets, so they have to look indistinguishable from real sets, so they are inherently photorealistic, and we will be leveraging a lot of that expertise for Metashima as well.
Perfect. And then, Yush, do you want to talk about how live performance on The Voice was achieved? Kind of touched on it with Coldplay earlier. But again, is this something we might see for Metashima with holograms, and just talk about the technology behind it?
Sure. So essentially, the way the voice performance was captured was they essentially placed markers on the floor where the holograms would appear. So the Coldplay band effectively had to act as if the holograms were there, and then in camera, using a bit of software, they're able to track in the holograms. So the viewer at home is able to see the holograms, and when the camera is moving around the 3D assets and around the band, it all appears as if it's happening within the same scene. And so the real bit of magic is the in-camera software that allows it to augment those holograms into that space and to give it depth and for it to feel like it's in the same room. I think yes, you can imagine this. If, for example, Metashima made it onto broadcast, that it would need to be tracked into the environment, so it would feel as if it was an appropriate size and depth and space from, say, for example, a presenter, for want of a better example. But it would use the similar sort of technologies where it would recognize this environment and then it'd be tracked around the space. I hope that answers your question, Dex.
And we've got one more from Nex, and he's done his research about dimension. This one might be best for you, Sai. Talking about the immersive healthcare training project we did, and he's wondering about whether the volumetric capture for that is something we might apply to the MAG.
The immersive healthcare training. So that was the demos or the train. I'm just reminding myself. This was 2 years ago. Yes, I mean the short answer is we can use volumetric video as part of bringing holograms into the mag, for example. Yes, we could. It's all linear based content, right? So that's the thing with volumetric video, is you're capturing a performance. So in our London studio, for example, we've got an array of 106 cameras, and if you stand in the middle of those, the cameras capture the action from all of the angles, all the photorealistic detail, and what you see is what you get. So it's good for linear performance capture. And yeah, they could, and we've developed pipelines and we've got the plugins to mean that those assets can play back on pretty much any platform or medium these days. Does that answer the question, or was it more specific to the healthcare training app?
I think that answers the question. I think just some of the community have got a lot of Shima possibilities to do with using a Shima for training, like healthcare training. So
Next is just posted on Discord. I'm liking what you're posting, Next. I'm feeling it. I'm a big fan of Baymax.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we've got one from Admeo. He's asked, what was the process behind certain innovative projects, like creating the first 3D AR platform, and what inspired the team to go down this route in the first place?
Hey, Mayo. So the 3D AR platform, I mean, it was based on fiducial markers. So we basically created technology which was image recognition, and it would lock virtual content to that fiducial marker or that image. And of course, these days the technology's moved on, so you don't need a marker. We actually developed technology that went way beyond that, but it was just too early for the market. So there's an app that I don't know, some people may or may not be familiar with, but it's for Dulux. It's called the Dulux Paint Visualizer that we developed. I think we started developing it now back in 2014, and it's gone on to have something like 30 to 40 million downloads worldwide. And it's quite a simple application. It allows you to imagine paint colors at home. So if you're thinking about changing the color of your walls, you can hold the phone up, and through the viewfinder you can press the color, and then it'll recognize where the door frame is, where pictures sit, where a TV is, and it'll paint around them, and it'll use the natural lighting as well, so it'll cast shadow effectively. Now, we developed that some time ago, but the world just wasn't ready for the more expansive opportunities of that technology, and interestingly the hardware itself wasn't quite ready. These days, of course, Snap, Facebook, etc., all the social platforms have developed markerless-based AR tracking. We were doing that quite early on before any of those guys. It's just the applications of it were just slightly too early for the market. But that was kind of like the inspiration, if you like, for the 3D AR platform, was that we wanted to use digital content in the physical world. We created the first the first AR graffiti app. It's like 7 or 8 years ago now, which enabled you to it was called Scroll, and you could draw in 3D AR in the physical space, whatever you wanted. You could, like spray paint. But again, not a lot of people were familiar with AR, and it was quite early in its ambitions. But they were like stepping stones for us towards, what we hope the metaverse might start to become, and some of the work we're now, or some of the possibilities we're now seeing much larger companies undertake.
Thank you, Sai. The next question again is from Mayo, and this might take you back, Sai, because it's to do with NASA and Valkyrie. Basically, people just want to know where the hell that came from. What was the collaboration? How did it come together?
I'll keep it really short and sweet. NASA had been working on the design of Valkyrie, which was a physical robot, which at the time was designed to go to Mars. A very expensive piece of kit. I can't remember the exact price point, but it was, I don't know, 4 to 5 million per robot, and they only had a few of them, and they needed to be in different parts of the world, and to transport them, and the fact that they're quite expensive, could become costly in itself. So we worked with the team to create a virtual version of Valkyrie, so that it could be used for educational experiences on like interactive touch screens, or it could be used on large screens to present the robot for the storytelling. So we basically recreated Valkyrie as a virtual but faithful recreation of the actual physical product to help take it around the world, if you like.
Awesome, thanks, Si.
I think just on that, Simon, it's worth saying that it was eventually shown at the Goodwood Festival of Speed in the Future Lab. I don't know if anyone makes it down there, but this year Metashima actually featured at Goodwood Festival of Speed in the Future Labs as a companion for the future. So I don't know if any of you guys in the UK made it down to that. If you got any pictures or anything, please share them, because the people that we worked with there, who's the curator, she didn't manage to get us a single shot, which is a bit of a bummer, but there you go.
Blimey, and I didn't know that. Right, I'm going to take us back down to Shima possibilities, and there's a couple of questions coming up from TNW. So what's the future for Metashima? Are we looking to be a metaverse gaming storyline project, or more focused on being a tech company providing an AI assistant? I'll give you the second one after, but do you want to run with that one, Yush?
Yeah, I mean, it's been no secret that we see Metashima as the entry point to Web3, entertainment experience. How that branches out, where that goes, is dependent on how we write this script. So gaming certainly is something that's very close to all of us. We have connections through the Dimension network, which puts us towards filmmaking or any kind of broadcast type IP if we think it needs to go that way. But we're excited by it having the legs to go in all these different directions, and I think we have the ability to deliver to a lot of these different areas. I mean, the AI part of it, for sure, it's always been something that we want to have part of it, and I think a lot more will be revealed over the next kind of 3 to 6 months anyway.
The way in which the experience is designed is like stepping stones towards the AI assistant. So it all pieces together. So, for example, some of the training applications within the mag, will be designed in such a way to, help train your Shima for some of those use cases and bring some of those features online. So it'll be phased in terms of the release.
That's awesome. The next question was actually about a Shima movie in the future, so you kind of touched on that. So I think we'll keep them spewing on that information for a while. But the next question is from Virtually Dan, and he's talking about the law. So has the law been written already, or are there aspects of it that will shift or are flexible?
The law has been written, but it's also evolving. So the deeper we go down the rabbit hole, the more ideas we have. But we're staying true to the original law, and I think more of that's due to be shared soon, Jake, right?
Most definitely, yeah. I'm going to switch us over to some potential challenges. So the first question is from, well, they're both from Maximus, actually. Thanks, Max. How will the AI assistant part of the NFT project be distinct from or rival the Alexas of the world?
That's a bloody good question. Interestingly, I was shown a robot recently that's powered by Alexa, and I think the difficulty is with all of these things is trying to make sure that your Metashima has personality. You know what we, and I've seen other examples. There's a company called Living.ai. If you have a look at their website, they've created a little robot that's supposed to learn from you as a physical robot. It understands its space. It won't fall off your desk. And over time, the machine learning will understand what you're up to and how you're feeling and adapt accordingly. I think that's where you want to go. Alexa feels a little bit more like an early version of the web where you just go to it and ask it simple questions like, what's the weather like outside? Can you turn some music on for me? Our vision for Metashima would be to have more depth to it, to have personality to it, to have something that can actually be a companion rather than it feeling like it's just one-way traffic. Ed, did you just raise your hand?
I did. Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. Personality goes a long way, as the man said. The original Tron movie had an amazing character in it called Bit. And all Bit was, and this is supercomputer geeky, all Bit was a single data bit of information. And all Bit could say was positive or negative, yes or no, 0 or 1. That's all it could communicate. And if you've seen the original Tron movie, you'll know Bit. It was looked like a little blue kind of dodecahedron that would follow the character around. But there was so much character in Bit. You know, it had a kind of cheeky playfulness. It was brave. It was loyal, and I think that is something that will really distinguish any sort of AI aspect that we give to the Metashima. You know, character, loyalty. You'll be able to trust it to do a thing. And you know, I understand why AI assistants like Siri and Alexa and Google are, I suppose, boring, right? You don't want them to have personality, but that's not the approach that we're taking with Shima, I think. And there's a lot of excitement, a lot of scope, and a lot of really interesting things that we can develop there once we start introducing personality to them.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, and I just saw Next posted up an image of Bit on Discord. That's Bit. Love Bit. He's so cool.
Bit looks awesome. The next question is from Max again, and I'm going to read this word for word, so bear with me here. A key challenge I hear is that loading a 3D asset from one app into another is a technical challenge. How close are we to solving that, and what would be the big challenge once that's overcome? Would the IP rights be the next big hurdle to bring assets from one app into another?
Yeah, I can speak briefly about the actual technical challenge there, and then maybe Simon or Yush can talk about the IP aspect, but it is a significant technical challenge. If you think about what the technical differences between something like Minecraft and something like I don't know, Assassin's Creed, right? Or a AAA video game. They're two. Not only are they technically different, they are stylistically different as well. So imagine what a Metashima would look like in Cyberpunk, right? And what would a Metashima look like in Minecraft? They would look totally different. Each engine is completely different from its foundations all the way up. the technical limitations, the texture size, all of it. I mean, it's a massive technical difficulty, but many people are working on it to solve it, because it's like the very early days of the internet. There's so many really foundational, difficult things that needed to get sorted before the internet could work, all the way through from financial transactions, speed, latency, graphics, sound, all of that stuff needed to be solved. And it was really hard, but it got solved because lots of clever people started working on it. Now, this will also get solved, but there's also the stylistic challenge. So the technical stuff will get solved. I'm confident of that. Not sure how yet. At the solution at the moment, by the way, just so everyone knows what the solution is at the moment, is a manual process. It's a manual process that an artist just needs to author the content specifically and manually for each individual particular application. So that's how it works at the moment. There might be some clever way. There will be a clever way soon to do that. But the other challenge is stylistically. How do you transpose the art direction of a Metashima from what you guys know what it looks like now into something like Minecraft and other things that will come along the road? So I mean that's going to be a cool, fun challenge, I think, certainly from my point of view as like, an art director of something like this. How do we make a Minecraft version of Metashima and still maintain the core art direction? It's an interesting one. I'd love to hear your thoughts as we go forward. That's all I have to say on that.
Thank you, Ed. Did we want to touch on the IP rights, or
Is the question there around using Metashima in on other platforms? I suppose it's worth saying. I mean, we believe or subscribe to the idea that there'll be an open metaverse, right? Which kind of removes some of the IP rights and challenges. And we also anticipate that some of the platforms that are kind of more walled garden in their approach right now, some of those walls will start to come down. In order to achieve the kind of vision of what the metaverse could become, or indeed they may not, and we'll have different universes that don't necessarily talk to one another, multiple metaverses, if you like. But yeah, well, as a business, I mean, we subscribe to the idea of an open metaverse.
Perfect. I'm going to go through the last few questions, but kind of take it back to the Shima ideation. So we've got a few questions from Menik, and they've asked to talk about the conceptualization and how we piece together the traits, art, and the finish for Metashima, and how the designs were created. So basically, just I suspect talk about the iteration sort of process.
Yeah, I mean, the process, of course, was an iterative one. The design I mean, I've already talked about Gundam and the actual model kits that I've spent way too much time creating. But I mean, you'll have seen the assembly video that we did for Metashima. They're actually built. They're built exactly like a model kit, a Gundam model kit. These things could be created as models. I would absolutely love to see that, and maybe we will, and I hope we do. But that, they were built to be assembled like real things get assembled. And as part of that comes an inherent modularity to them, which of course makes them perfect candidates for the kind of thing that you guys are contributing to. Traits become individual aspects of the kit. Parts become rare, colors become rare, decals become, particularly only applicable on certain aspects of it, and then they have value. So it really began with that, the physicality of it was something that was super important to us, I would say. And yeah, I don't know if that answers the question. I hope so, Medic.
It definitely does, don't worry. do we have any original sketches, concept art, notes, or references that we can share with the community?
We have loads of stuff that looks really janky and horrible, but would probably be of super interest to the community. So yeah, we can definitely take that away from tonight and maybe see if we can show some early Frankenshima. Hang on, that's a pretty cool word, Frankenshima. Yeah, but they do look really, really janky. But yeah, it might be fun to see them.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. Which video game, old or new, has customization mechanics you feel most closely resembles the way components will interchange within Metashima? And was this game an initial inspiration? That's from Menick too. Did you get that?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, it wasn't really a video game, Menick. I think that the assembly bit, the components was, I think I probably actually answered that question already with it's just the main thing was that they were based on the Gundam kits that it was purely coincidental. It was so contemporaneous with my hobby that was just kicking off at the time that we began this. I was like, hang on, this is perfect. I bored Simon and Yush and the team. I bored them so much with just talking about Gundam kits all of the time, and I was showing them all the stuff that I was making, and it just seemed to kind of make sense to everyone. And that was the beginning of how the customization mechanics started to get designed. So it wasn't a video game. It was the physical model kits that I was building.
Okay, and then the last one from Menick. When did the idea, the design, and the planning first go into creating modular Metashima, and how might fractionalization of the components work when in and out of the mag? Maybe that's one for Si.
Oh yeah, I can talk a bit about the idea for creating the Metashima in a modular way was right from the outset. I mean, that was always part of the thinking, was that we wanted to create robots that could evolve, because it won't just be the functionality in terms of the the AI capabilities or some of the capabilities which will be delivered via the screen or the way in which the Shima might communicate with you. We also felt that we wanted the ability to enable customization for different parts and different traits, to Ed's point. And that was also important because of some of the plans we've got in the way in which we want to bring these into more of a kind of entertainment experience. It requires modularity to deliver on some of those ambitions. So the kit of parts, the model, analogy, that was always part of the thinking from day one. And then how might fractionalization of the components work when in and out of the mag? So are we talking about how if we update the Metashima, if you upgrade the Metashima or if you customize them, how that will then translate if you're using the Metashima outside of the mag? Yeah, is that the question there? I think it is.
Let's go for that. And if it's not, I can touch on with Menick
Yeah.
after.
Is anyone in Discord answering that? Let's have a quick look. No. Okay. The idea is that you'll be able to use the mag and the lab within the mag, if you like, to enable those customizations to take place, the upgrades to take place. And obviously we'll start by unlocking certain features, and that will grow over time. And you can then take that Metashima as it looks into some of the different ways in which they'll be used, different platforms or different parts of the entertainment experience. How that relates to the core NFT, we're still deciding how we want to play that. We have flexibility to go several ways with it, but do we want the NFTs themselves to evolve, or do we want the original NFT to remain true? They're decisions we're looking at the moment.
Perfect. And we're on our last question. This one's from All for Keeps. So how does the AI impact your dream for Metashima? Why was it so crucial adding the AI into the project? And who is building the AI for the project?
So how does it impact our dreams? Thanks for the question, Keeps. I mean, we touched on it earlier. It's about bringing personality and life to the Shima, right? We want it to be something that you vibe with and plays a role in your metaverse existence rather than being a passenger. So AI is important. It's crucial, yes, but not a showstopper. It has to be right. It has to be, like everything, the way we approach this project has to be right. And we'll do our due diligence and work with someone who knows their shit inside out. We're not specialists in AI, but we know good from bad, and so we'll work with someone who we feel will bring the right bits together and deliver for our project and our community. So that answers your question.
That's important to say, right? I mean, we've worked with AI and across different productions that we work on day to day anyway, so we're quite familiar with some of the capabilities and some of the different things. We're not going to build our own AI at the moment. We're currently looking at partnering, and we're having conversations with various parties to help make that happen.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. That concludes the questions. But I've just got to say a special shout out to everyone who attended. You've been with us for almost 3.5 hours. We've been grinding through the quest, and we've been talking to the awesome founders, going through Metashima and Dimension. So I just thought we'd wrap it up with some closing comments and what you're most looking forward to, because I know All for Keeps has a special sign-off. We're going to take a little bit of inspiration from that, and I'll ask each of you individually to tell us what you're most looking forward to, and then so you can close things off. Who wants to go first?
What was the question, Yush? Or sorry, Jake?
The question was just to close things off. From me, a heartfelt thank you, and appreciate your time today, this evening, this afternoon, wherever you are. Plenty more shit coming down, and hopefully you stick with us and we enjoy the ride. Speak to you soon.
Yeah, echo what Yush has said. Thanks everyone for joining. Really appreciate the time, the passion and the commitment, and everyone backing of this project. We've got, like Yush says, we've got lots of things coming over the next 2 months, which I think people will get excited about. And I hope everyone enjoyed hearing from Ed tonight. I think you did. We'll get him on. We'll make sure we get him on the next Spaces.
Yeah, no, it was cool. It was cool. I really, really enjoyed. I'm loving the Discord bants. That's cool as well. I mean, my God, you guys got so many cool ideas. It's ridiculous. Really cool. Really cool. Inspirational.
Ed, you're being called the People's Champ.
I love that.
Or
God, this is going to make him unbearable.
Yeah.
Oh, deadly.
He's already unbearable.
Well, no, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? If these guys love Metashima, and like I love making robots, they're, we're the same people, So it's yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Birds of a feather and all of that, right? Birds of a feather.
Yeah. This project has always been about robot revolution, right? We're just starting with the virtual. That's the reality. So we're trying to bring that to life.
Yeah. Well, thanks everyone. It was a pleasure, and I will definitely be chatting to you guys again. I hope.
That was awesome. Appreciate you guys for attending. We're going to wrap this thing up, and I'll chuck the recording in Discord. For any questions that we didn't quite get to, we're going to sit down and go through those. So expect some replies from me. I'll tag you individually so you can see the answers to those questions. But again, a special thanks for attending. You've been with us for so long. We appreciate you so much. Peace out, guys.
Thanks, everyone.